Live deep in the heart of West Texas. This is the James Hendricks Show, Weekend Edition. Hey guys, not really that much in the mood of going back to some of the reactive news of the day. All the humdrum stuff about hyperinflation. So what I'm going to do today, and this is relevant, okay? This is relevant for the time of year. You know, we're in between Thanksgiving and Christmas, you know. There's lots of talks about, you know, among Christians about the pilgrims and what they recommend, what they represented. What people don't know, and I'm going to go ahead and say this. Because I did some research on this. The first Thanksgiving held by the Pilgrims was not held on Thanksgiving, was not held in November. No. It was held in October of 1621. At the time of the Hebrew feast of what was known as Sukkot, which is the Feast of Tabernacles. Some people know about that, but I think sadly with reactive culture and revisionist history, where you don't know the truth, the difference between truth and propaganda. This is why I'm here today. We're taking yet another break from the news. I promise you that on Monday I will return to straight analysis of the news. As a guy that's, you know, like a public relations consultant specialist for my audience, and not necessarily, I'm not a journalist, okay? So, some say, Jimmy, you should have been a journalist. No. Journalists are not interested in reporting the truth, in my view, so sorry. Now, the bulk of today's show is devoted to the Christian theorem of politics by popular demand through a good friend of mine. She's a good friend of mine, and, you know, she knows that I've been battling, you know, on occasion some depressions and stuff, and she says, Jimmy, you need to realize how much you really bless people, how God uses you to bless people through the airwaves. And so, I'm going to borrow a phrase from Rush. Talent unknown from God. Yeah, that's what I have. And as a flaming liberal, when I used to hear Rush say it, I thought he was being arrogant. No, not necessarily. Now, I digress. You're saying, Jimmy, let's get to the point. Let's get to your Christian theorem of okay. Now, this is going to be a bit off the beaten path. Some of you are not going to accept where I get some of my theories. Some of my theories on politics. We're going to a source in my modern writ of my church, known as Doctrine and Covenants, section 134. Okay, this was composed in August of 1835. People have been asking questions about politics and government, so I'm going to go ahead and read this, and then after that, we'll go into some more deeper discussion. Verse 1. We believe that governments were instituted of God for the benefit of man, and that He holds men accountable for their acts in relation to them, both in making laws and administering them for the good and safety of society. You might say, well, how can you back that up in the Bible? Well, it's easy. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 27. Verses, I believe it's 6 through 8. No, it's deeper than that. 6 through 11. Let's go through this, okay? 4 through 11, okay. And command them to say unto their masters, Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, Thus shall ye say unto your masters, I have made the earth, the man and the beast that are upon the ground, by my great power and by my outstretched arm, and have given it unto whom it seemeth meet unto me. Verse 6. And now have I given all these lands unto the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, my servant, and the beasts of the field have I given him also to serve him. And all nations shall serve him, and his son, and his son's son, until the very time of his land come. And then many nations and great kings shall serve themselves of him. And it shall come to pass that the nation and kingdom which will not serve the same Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, and that will not put their neck under the yoke of the king of Babylon, that nation will I punish, saith the Lord. I think, really with that one, I think that means submission. Submission to law and authority. We may not like Joe Biden. Okay? There's a common chant going on in stadiums calling, blank Joe Biden. I want to caution people, please don't do that. Please don't do that, okay? We can choose not to like his policies. That's what I do. I choose not to like his policies. But for this time being, I think basically because of man's sin and reactivity, he has been put in a position of authority. Doesn't make what he does right. Think about it. Think about it in the Bible, Nebuchadnezzar, okay? The Lord gave Nebuchadnezzar authority, but here's the thing. Nebuchadnezzar abused that authority and wanting to put Daniel in the lion's den if he's not worshipped. Kings have misused authority, and Biden and his people, they misuse authority, and so if you misuse authority, the Lord has the power to take that away. I believe there is such a thing as calm obedience that can be done instead of reactivity. Let's think about that. Now, let's go on to the second verse of Doctrine and Covenants 134. We believe that no government can exist in peace except such laws are framed and held inviolate, as well as secure to each individual the free exercise of conscience, the right and control of property, and the protection of life. See, that's an indictment on what we got right now. That's a huge indictment right now. Because you see the liberal agenda. The agenda of this president we have right now that tends to want to endorse communism. Right to property is being thrown out the window. Right to free exercise of conscience. I believe you can choose to calmly and civilly disobey. But I think when you get reactive, that's where it bargains out more trouble. Okay? It bargains out more trouble. And I could get started on that rabbit hole. But I won't. And the protection of life, okay? To me, that means the sanctity of life. That means Americans have a right to defend and protect themselves also. But sadly, I think because of our reactive culture that's being thrown out the window, we need to do something to take this country back. To fight for the sanctity of life and the free exercise of conscience. Do I necessarily agree with everyone's everyone's conscience in this? No. But I think we have a right to have free exercise of conscience, and that's a key importance there. And of course, you might say, well, Jimmy, isn't it in violation of what's written in the Bible? Not necessarily. I want you thinking, okay, Jesus is there, he's teaching in the Temple of Jerusalem. And here comes the Pharisees and some of their buddies, the Herodians. They're trying to entangle him in this talk, and they say, well, Jesus, we know you're true, and we know that you're not messing around, but we just got this one burning question. Is it lawful to pay tribute to Caesar or not? And so, Jesus is kind of like, you guys are getting just reactive. Why tempt ye me? Show unto me a penny, which could be a silver coin. And so they produce a coin, and he puts it out in front of them and says, whose image and superscription is on this? And they say unto him, Caesar. Jesus said, well, then render unto Caesar the things that be Caesar's, and unto God the things that be God's. They shut their mouths. They couldn't say anything else. They couldn't say anything else about it. Okay? They couldn't say anything else about it. Now, we need to fight for the sanctity of life. We need to fight for man's right to defend themselves and their property. Okay? Some of these communistic liberals. Oh, I said something that makes somebody mad today. I said something that makes somebody mad. Ooh, I'm deeply sorry, but it just is what it is. I'd like to see them come to Texas to take away people's guns. Now, me, myself, being legally blind, I do not